we're going to get to the subject I really want to talk about. And it was the Street Fighter 6 beta experience over the weekend. For those of you that don't know, we got a code, but we were in a little bit of a limbo because we weren't sure if we were going to get to play or not, right? Because I made the mistake of switching. Like, I got accepted into one account, but I redeemed the code on another account. So it was a little bit of a bad news bear situation. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. But sure enough, and you know, it was one of those things where, like, on Thursday we had the show. A couple hours later was going to be the start of the beta, and I just was so upset that I just went to bed. Right? Like, I even forgot to, like, upload some stuff to YouTube. I just went straight to bed. I woke up the next morning. I was, like, dreading it, right? Because I didn't want to find out that I didn't have access to the beta. I was all but defeated. And then I sat down and I opened the game and it was starting to load up, and then it said, we're down for maintenance. So I had to wait another hour for the maintenance to end to find out whether I got into the beta or not. And after about an hour of waiting, I signed up again. I saw that they tweeted out that the maintenance was over. I turned the game on and we were in! We did it! We got to play the game! It was amazing! We got into the character creation, and then we got to play all weekend! It was great! It was so much fun! I was so worried that we weren't going to get to play it, and we got to play it, and it was so much fun. It was crazy. Getting my hands on the game all weekend long. It was wild. It was wild. Die by Sword was there. Die by Sword and I played some games. It was crazy, right? So for the first time in a long time, I feel like fighting games are finally catching up with modern game types, right? We had access to the Battle Hub, which was this huge area, right? With a bunch of cabs, some shops, some stuff to do. We stopped by the DJ booth, we stopped by the photo booth, we stopped by the extreme mode, we stopped by the game center, we played a little bit of Magic Sword, which was badass. We bought some cool clothing. Hilariously enough, my favorite part of the beta was just going to say hi to people I knew. It felt like a major. The maintenance troll, right? We got to relive a little bit of Street Fighter 5 beta. For those of you that were around the Street Fighter 5 beta, we got stuck on the press any button screen. We also got stuck on the press any button screen on the first day while they were doing maintenance to fix up a bunch of stuff. But my favorite part, legit, was just going around to people I knew and waving hi. Because it felt like a major, right? Or it felt like a tournament. You could just go see someone you know walking around. You could go say hi, and then you could go about your way, right? That to me felt really special. Especially after, you know, the entire pandemic where we've all lost touch with each other for so long. So that to me was something that was oddly special that I wasn't expecting to be special, if that makes sense. I even managed to capture some of these moments. For those of you that missed it, on the first day we got to play, we got to sit down and play a couple sets with Jabali from CEO Gaming. Sat down and we played a long set. And then I waved hi and we parted ways, and this was his reaction to our character. For those of you that don't know, we had the best character in the beta, undoubtedly, and this was Jabali's reaction to our character.
BestofVShow, what the hell is that thing? Holy shit, bro!
Anyway, that was Jabali's reaction to our character. You know, that to me was fun, just like going around waving hi to people and then getting to see the reaction from the other side of the screen. Somebody else we got to visit, and this was unfortunately not on stream because I was taking a break, right? I had decided to take a break, so I ran into Mustard from the EU. I saw that he was streaming. I saw what lobby he was in, so I went to go say hi. He was in the middle of a match. I was about to go take a break, so I just set my character down and then left. And this is what happened when he came to.
Oh my fucking god! What have you done? Have you been over there have you been over my shoulder this whole time? What have you done, sir? Alright, Ryan, sit back down. Ryan, sit back down.
The featured player's win streak has stopped.
Wait for it.
All right, it's Ryan. Good. That is certainly a... God damn, what is going on with your back? Get to a chiropractor. No.
So that was Mustard's reaction to our amazing character. And of course, Mustard and myself have run into each other a couple times in Capital City too. So again, like seeing names and kind of putting, quote unquote, putting faces to names, not necessarily, was super fun. Last but not least, we, right towards the end of the beta, we stopped by to say hi to James Chen. And this was his reaction.
The featured player's win
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh my God. What is that monstrosity? Which person is that? Is that Elon or is that Steve?
Now that let me know that James doesn't watch our show because he doesn't know Steve retired. But man, that was super fun. And watching like everybody's reaction, that is quite a face to put to your name. Look, for those of you that were there, you know it's peak human evolution. It's peak human evolution. And if you missed it, it was the face that we had on our thumbnail. This was our person. This was like the first time we actually got to see him in motion, and it was hilarious. And then by the time we got to James, I had put goggles on him. I had dressed him up real nice. It was really cool. It was really cool. Now, some overall thoughts on the beta. Not talking about gameplay. Talking about the Battle Hub itself. My favorite part, right? Like I said, like walking around, seeing people, interacting with people, just doing stuff. Unbelievable. Super fun. Super funny. You know, you could like do the special moves. Like people were like spinning bird kicking off of the rafters and trying to land on arcade cabs. You know, like people were just sitting around like waving hi to people. It was so fun. It was so fun. And every time you saw a top player, you just saw like a crowd of people like moving along with them. It was like a real tournament. It's crazy. Every time you saw a top player at a cab, there was always people crowded around that cab. It genuinely felt like a tournament. It really did. It was very interesting. Gameplay wise, Street Fighter 6 is extremely interesting, right? If you could, now I'm not going to put gameplay up, right? Because there's enough gameplay. If you go to our YouTube, you can see some of our sets and my struggle with Street Fighter 6. But Street Fighter 6 is extremely interesting because there are aspects of every Street Fighter game built into it, and they're very obvious, right? Something that I did find extremely interesting was, unlike Street Fighter 5, a lot of the buttons in this game are very negative. And by very negative, I mean, like, jabs are generally, like, -1, -2. Medium punches generally are -1, -2. Right? Which is a complete opposite from Street Fighter 5, where jabs are +3, medium punches, like, most medium punches are, like, +4, 5, right? On block, I mean. So, like, if everything on block is super negative, then... how does Street Fighter 6 work? That's the thing. You know what this reminds me of? Straight up, the neutral in Street Fighter 5, because of the way these buttons are designed, reminds me a lot of Tekken. And here's why. In Tekken, there are a lot of situations that are either -2 or +2, but still are completely neutral because of the options that each player has available, right? So... if somebody does a jab string, like say like a jab, they're +2. However, the person that's blocking the jab string and then is -2 can do a host of things, right? Like they can sidestep, they can duck, they can backdash, they can do a power crush move, right? They have a lot of options that kind of make it seem like -2 situations aren't that big of a deal. Street Fighter 6 reminds me of that. Because anytime you're like -1 or +1, you have so many options at your disposal, right? You have buttons. Like, for example, I didn't figure this out until day like 2, right? So I was doing like regular Street Fighter 5 block string where it's like standing medium punch, crouching medium punch. into Fireball. But standing medium punch is -1. Crouching medium punch is 0 for Ryu, right? I was playing Ryu most of the weekend. So those weren't real. So I started getting jabbed out of them. And I was beside myself, right? Especially because Ryu's medium punches were 6 frames of startup. Jabs were generally 4, right? So I was getting jabbed out of a lot of things, not understanding why. And it wasn't until after I went to training mode, used the training mode features like that, the frame bar, which shows the frame data of everything. And it shows it so detailed. Like they have a timeline where it says, here are your startup frames, here are your active frames, here are your recovery frames. It's amazing. It has everything. The training mode really is designed to help people, and it feels like that hasn't always been the case. The fact that they have a simple training mode where you're like, I want to practice jump-ins, and then they automatically set it up for you, or I want to practice confirms, I want to practice DIs, right, or drive impacts, or parrying, etc., etc. You just click a button, and they set up the dummy for you, and you just are off on your way practicing. It's great. But yeah, the fact that you have those -1, +1 situations, and you still have so many tools like a parry, a drive impact, you have your own moves, you have invincible moves, right? You can do EX moves that have invincibility, or you can backdash, you can do all this other kind of stuff. It's great. The game, Automatic said this on his stream, and I wholeheartedly agreed. I spent the entire weekend playing Ryu, right? And it feels like I only scratched the surface of what that character can do by the end. That is not how Street Fighter V felt at all. After like 3 weeks with Karen, it was like, all right, I figured this character out. Now it's just about applying it into matches. With Ryu, there's so much stuff that is... with not just with Ryu, but with every character, there is so much in each character and like how they work, because the game is so complex, right? Because you have normals, you have command normals. I completely forgot Ryu has a back fierce that I completely didn't know about until like the last day of the tournament, or the last day of the beta. The drive rush is the meat and potatoes of the game. That the drive rush system, the FADCs, if you will, that is going to be the big nitty-gritty of the game. Why? Drive rush gives you a +4 to every attack when you do a drive rush, right? Every drive rush you do, you get a +4. So if I'm going up and I'm jabbing someone, if I do it normally, it's -1. If I go up and I jab someone and they block, it's +3. On hit, I think a jab is... I don't remember what a jab is on hit. But let's say, just for the sake of the example here, a jab is +3 on hit. If you do a jab in drive rush, it's going to be +7. And that also works with any other button. So for example, on block, crouching medium punch for Ryu is 0. On drive rush, it's +4. So all of a sudden you have pressure options, right? The big thing that I've noticed is this. Street Fighter V, the way I played Street Fighter V, I played Karen. The whole game plan was hit a crouching medium kick. When you hit a crouching medium kick, confirm it into your full combo, right? Not every character works that way in Street Fighter V. So a lot of other characters, while some characters do still have that kind of game plan, a lot of other characters kind of have to be a little bit more creative, and they feel worse off for it. So with this drive rush system, everybody has a crouching medium kick confirm, right? Something I've been seeing so much is crouching medium kick confirms drive rush into a full combo. Granted, the big danger is that drive meter is so difficult to manage because we're unfamiliar with it, right? You get 6 pips of drive meter, and if you use it up too much, then you go into burnout. Burnout is extremely scary in this game because of a couple of things. Does Guile? I've been hit with Guile crouching medium kick in the shit, right? Crouching medium kick, or like any other normal, maybe like crouching light kick maybe works. I don't have the game to try it out, and I'm sad about it. But that's been the big thing, is confirms into Drive Rush. They're expensive. The drive meter works this way. You have 6 pips, and we've all known this for a while, but it's the first time we actually like really got to have our hands on it. You have 6 pips, and just about every action you do goes off of the drive meter, right? Your parries, your drive impacts, your drive reversals, your EX meters are all from there. And to top it all off, the drive meter, when you have drive meter, any chip you would take to health or to gray damage or anything goes to the drive meter, right? Nothing else. Your drive meter takes all of the chip damage when you have drive meter available. It doesn't go to your health. It doesn't go anywhere else. So when you don't have drive meter, you don't have access to any of that. You can't parry. You can't do EX moves. You can't drive impact. You can't drive reversal. And you take chip from specials. So it's extremely, extremely scary. Specials and supers, I should note. So it's extremely, extremely scary. On top of all that, you deal less damage. You take more damage. And your frame data, I think, has a -2 to everything. I think that's what it is. I could be completely wrong about it. But I do believe that your opponent gets like a +2 or +3 to everything when you're in burnout mode. So you're really screwed when you're getting to burnout mode. So while those confirms into Drive Rush are kind of what was dominating stuff in the beta, we have to remember that stuff is half of the drive meter. It takes 3 bars to Drive Rush off of a normal. It's terrifying to do, right? Mostly the times I would do it was just when I confirmed something. Like when I would confirm either a punish on a drive impact or something else. That was the only time I would feel comfortable using it, or when I was going into in neutral. Something that I found out that I was using a lot during the beta with the Drive Rush is in neutral, you can also Drive Rush out of a parry. Drive Rushing out of a parry is 1 bar. So you parry, Drive Rush, kind of like an FADC. With Ryu, you can then do an overhead, and because of the frame advantage, you can then do a crouching medium punch or a jab, or not a crouching medium punch, a jab, and you can combo. So I was doing walk, Drive Rush, overhead, jab, into a special move, into a Tatsu. The fact that you can combo off of overheads because of Drive Rush was amazing. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable. So there's a lot to this game, and the fact that there are so many variables means that everybody's going to experience things differently, which I cannot wait. Right? Like I saw how a couple other people, like we played Jabali, we played Automatic, we played a couple friends of mine, we played a bunch of people, and everybody kind of has their own take on it. It's really cool. It's really cool. I can't wait to see how this game develops over time. Something that's been a hot topic of conversation, however, is the drive impact. The drive impact, for those of you that don't know, is the big focus attack move, right? You get 3 hits of armor, and then if you hit your opponent, if you armored through something and you get a counter hit, they crumple. So you essentially get a full combo afterwards. If they block, they get thrown halfway across the screen. The big thing with the drive impact button is when you're up against the wall, if you block a drive impact, you get wall splat, and then you eat an entire combo. If you get wall splat while you're in burnout, that's the stun. And then you eat a whole mess of shit while taking extra damage. So it's scary. And that was like the single thing that was the hardest to deal with in the beta. Everybody's complaining about it. People are saying, take that shit out the game. Nobody likes it, blah, 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 blah. I think my personal take on this is it's fine. It's okay. Why? We don't know how to deal with it yet. We haven't had sufficient time to deal with it yet. So I don't think it needs to change, especially because you do have a lot of options out of it, right? Level 1 supers are armor breaking. So anytime you see a drive impact, you can cancel into a level 1 super. I didn't do that at all in the beta, and I regret it. Level 3s are armor breaking. You can parry. If you get a perfect parry, you get a full punish. If you don't get a perfect parry, it just goes back to 0-0. You can drive impact back. If you see the drive impact, you can then hit your drive impact, and you're going to absorb the armor, and you're going to counter them, and then they're eating a full punish. Only if you're fast enough. We'll get to that, Die by Sword. We'll get to that. The big issue with the drive impact is this. When you hit it with a special move, unless the special move does 3 hits of anything, you're screwed, right? So for example, Ryu Fireball. If they absorb a fireball, you're kind of screwed. Unless it's an EX Fireball, then you can recover fast enough sometimes. Jamie's Rekkas. If you absorb the first hit of a Rekka with a drive impact, Jamie's screwed. Jamie's going to get hit. What does this mean? The 1s and 2s, the bread and butter of Street Fighter for the past couple of years, not safe anymore, right? That means we have to be so mindful with what we're doing. We can't just do mindless crouching medium kick into confirm, or crouching medium kick into buffer, not confirm. Crouching medium kick into buffer, right? So that's something that we have to be very wary of. The issue that I think was happening was this. I don't think we have the muscle memory yet to see the armor hit to then hit the 2 buttons, right? If you're playing on a stick or if you're playing on a pad, the buttons for drive impact are roundhouse and fierce, heavy punch and heavy kick. It's both of those buttons together. There are times where I felt like I hit the buttons and it should have been in time, and it wasn't. Was that my fault? Was that my unfamiliarity with the game? Brian F. brought up this point, and I had this in the back of my mind. Brian F. brought up this point that the cancel window for a drive impact was very tight. So if a drive impact came and it absorbed your, let's say, a crouching medium kick. If it absorbed the crouching medium kick, like if it absorbed the back half of a crouching medium kick, it's too late for you to cancel it and you're going to eat it, right? I think for me personally, if I was making this game, which I am not, and I don't know if this is a good idea or not, I would love to try it. I would change 2 things about the drive impact. If it was up to me, right? At the same time, I also kind of hope they don't change too much. But 2 things I would change about the drive impact is, 1, give it a longer cancel window, right? So, for example, if the armor absorb happens on the back half of a medium kick, you can still cancel into a drive impact and you don't miss it and you're just kind of screwed, right? That, I think, would give people a little bit more leeway to cancel into it. The other thing I would change is the scaling. Drive impacts are happening enough to a point that I think it warrants them having a little bit more scaling. And I think I brought this up on our final stream on the final day. Perfect parries have a ton of scaling. It almost feels like a perfect parry is not worth doing. Or like the only acceptable punish to a perfect parry is just getting a hard knockdown with a sweep or something like that, right? Because with a perfect parry, you get instantly like 50% damage scaling just by getting a perfect parry. Whereas with a drive impact, I don't know what the number is, but it's definitely not 50%. You get a lot of damage out of a drive impact. So with that, I wish those 2 were changed. I wish the drive impact had a large scaling and the perfect parry had less scaling. Why? Drive impacts are much easier to land. Perfect parries, you have a 3-frame window, right? It feels like perfect parries are going to be a lot more rare and a lot harder to achieve. Whereas a drive impact, it's just a button press. and then it's a gamble. Big for Lil says, my biggest concern is all the slowdown. You don't like that trend in the FGs? I think it's done tastefully enough in Street Fighter 6, to be honest, right? And the reason I say that is this. With fighting games, for the untrained eye, like look at it from somebody who doesn't necessarily know what's going on, right? When you say something like, oh, he got counter hit, they have no idea what that means, right? They don't know that that's a big deal. When the game slows down, or when you have an animation, like for example, a drive parry. If you absorb the armor and hit your opponent with a drive parry, you get that giant splash of color. Your opponent crumples down, and you start doing a big combo. That's a huge way of telling the audience that's like, hey, this is a big deal. Pay attention, jerks, right? Same thing with the drive parry. When you perfect parry something, the game slows down, right? You get a big splash of purple and blue, and then whoever perfect parried then gets a full punish. That again tells the viewer, hey, this is important, right? And the funnier thing, and I don't know if I like this or not, but the funnier thing is the characters talk shit in between. Like, I think I was going to try to remember what Ryu said, but I can't remember what Ryu said when he perfect parried stuff. I think it's done tastefully enough that it's not hindering the experience. Because I think those are the only two situations that happens, right? It's the drive impact and then the perfect parry. I think those are the only two situations. They don't have like the Tekken slowdown where like the last hit causes a slowdown or anything like that. But yeah, it's kind of incredible that in the beta for Street Fighter 6, it felt like the game had more substance than the full release of Street Fighter 5. It was very difficult. Like, it felt very difficult for me to remember that both of those games were both released by the same company. Right? Granted, a lot of Street Fighter 5 was outsourced to a company called Dimps. And it feels like this Street Fighter is being handled fully internally by Capcom. The game felt great. You know what's really funny? There's something that some people have caught on to this, but not a lot of people have. The one discussion that we're not having, that I thought was going to be a big discussion point, but the fact that it's not is a very big deal in a good way, is nobody's talking about the netcode. Right? It felt like the netcode was very consistent. And I say consistent because we don't know what the game feels offline yet. We haven't had that opportunity. We haven't had the opportunity to really feel this game out offline. So the games we were playing online, whether the netcode is good or bad, we don't know, right? Whether there's a lot of delay, we don't know. However, it was consistent. Right? I played Automatic. Automatic is in North Carolina. He's far away as hell. The game felt great. I felt like I was reacting to a lot of things. He was reacting to a lot of things. And it felt consistent. Same thing with Jabali. Jabali's in Orlando. I'm in Texas. That's far away as hell. We had a great set. Right? Even like the worst connections. I think the worst connection we had was with a player called Dark Alley Arcade. And that was the one where it was like 3 frames of delay, like 7 frames of rollback, like 300 ping. It was rough. But I still was able to do a first to 5, or not a first to 5, a best of 5 with Dark Alley Arcade. It was funny. It was fun. But yeah, the fact that people haven't talked about netcode, I think, is a very, very good indication that the consistency is there. Again, whether the netcode's actually good or not, we haven't had enough time to learn the game offline to know. Yeah, and there were only like 1 or 2 issues here and there of lag spikes, but I think it was just because the person I was playing had Wi-Fi. Yeah, because anytime when I played Jabali, everything was super smooth. When I played Automatic, everything was super smooth. I played a friend of mine who lives a couple miles up the street. Our ping was like 20. And the match felt amazing. Right? Even the issues that the beta itself had, they fixed. Right? For those of you that were with me when we were streaming the beta. Day one of the beta, there were a lot of communication errors, right? We tried to play a tournament. The tournament didn't work properly. Every time we would come back to the battle hub, we would get a communication error. Sometimes we would get kicked out. Sometimes we wouldn't. By the end, all of that was gone. And everything was very smooth. I didn't try entering a tournament again. Maybe I should have. But the issues that they were having within the beta, they were able to fix over the weekend. That's amazing, right? All in all, how was the beta experience? I think it can all be summed up with what I said a little bit earlier. The fact that the beta had more substance to it than a full release of Street Fighter V bodes very well for this game moving forward. And the fact that I was able to get enjoyment both in the match and I got even more enjoyment outside of the match in the Battle Hub world, like going to say hi to Jabali, to James Chen. We tried to say hi to a couple of other people. Some of them were really into the game, so, we couldn't say hi or whatever. But I think that's super important, right? Because it finally gives the game a sense of community that it hasn't had before. Even though it's very artificial, it really does give give it a sense of community because you're going to be seeing names repeatedly, right? And it's the same thing when you travel to tournaments. When you travel to tournaments or when you're in other lobby systems, you start seeing the same names over and over again. And then you start interacting with those names. And then just by proxy, you start, getting more familiar with everybody. So the fact that they pulled this off and the fact that it works well and the fact that you can be so expressive with it, the character creation is, like I said on the first day, I usually don't give a shit about character creation, right? When you give me a game with character creation, I'm usually the one that just skips right over it because I don't care. But after purposefully making an abomination, a monstrosity, if you will, as James Chen put it, after making that character and that character being my character and seeing the reactions of other people and people being able to recognize me as that character, that's something special. And I can't wait for the full game to come out. It sucks that we can't play the game anymore. I've been thinking about it all week, to be honest. So much so that, I even brought this on. I even brought this on for this week because it's been in the back of my mind, right? For those of you that don't know, this is the song that would play when you're in the Battle Hub. I do hope that they have other songs because after a couple months of the game, maybe this is going to start getting old. The Battle Hub experience is probably what Arc System has wanted to nail. Yeah, I 100% agree. I feel like they've gotten close sometimes, But the fact that it felt like everything for the most part worked in this beta bodes very well. I remember really liking the Guilty Gear Xrd lobbies. Right, because you in a way, you got to go do stuff. The Strive lobbies, I don't like as much, just because it feels very restrictive. But yeah, the fact that you can express yourself, you can go do stuff in the lobbies, right? Like getting to play Magic Sword when I got tired of Street Fighter 6 was super fun. Die by Sword and I played a little bit of the Extreme Battles. The Extreme Battles were so fun. I feel like I was giggling like a little schoolgirl the entire time Die by Sword and I were playing Extreme Battle, right? Like the fact that we were, just trying to fight it out and then dodging a bull, or we were trying to play bomb volleyball or whatever. Those damn bombs. And they had some other modes, right? Like they rotated a couple of modes. They had one where like you have to do 4 things before your opponent, and it's like you need to land 2 throws, you need to not take damage for 7 seconds, you need to do 2 drive impacts, and you need to knock down your opponent 3 times. And it was different for each character, so each character had their own goal, and then you just had to fulfill it before your opponent does. Stuff like that makes the game feel more like a game and less like work, right? Because at the end of the day, like at the end of the game, games can feel like work, even if we're having fun-ish kind of. It just feels like we have to keep playing to get better, blah 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 blah. But this, like, it feels like it's much more of an experience than. I don't think it's even gonna be just a casual thing. I don't think it's going to be just a casual thing. Could you imagine extreme mode tournaments? I would sign up in a heartbeat. You kidding me? Give me some extreme mode tournaments, man. I absolutely hope this isn't Combo Breaker. Yeah, it's like I remember a lot of tournaments started doing the 0-2 tournaments. I think this was specifically at SoCal Regionals. They did an 0-2 tournament. So everybody that went 0-2 had the chance to enter another tournament. Instead of like the regular team tournaments that can seem a little bit monotonous, why not have an extreme battle tournament? The one thing I wish they had, which they didn't, and I hope that changes, but I won't be too upset if it doesn't, is I wish you could play the classic games with other people, right? They had Magic Sword. It would have been awesome if I could play it with someone else. At one point, they put up ST, right? If you could play ST with somebody, that would be funny as hell. Or that would be fun as hell, right? I think they had hyper fighting the first day, right? Like if you could go play hyper fighting with your friends in the game, that would be really cool. But again, the fact that they just have it and it's a score attack thing with leaderboards, it feels like an arcade. It genuinely does feel like going to an arcade. It's pretty crazy. It's really crazy. And I miss it. I miss it dearly, man. I've been thinking about it ever since, dude. That game was fun. It finally feels like we have a game that's not just a fighting game. It's a full experience, right? Like you get to go do stuff. And it's not just, it's not just like, you gotta win, you have to be good. It's not just that anymore. It's like, it's a thing. It's its own thing. I don't know how else to put it. I'm really happy about it. The one thing that makes me really sad is the fact that we can't play it right now. I hope they do an open beta sooner rather than later. But yeah. I think, is that enough gushing about Street Fighter 6? It's almost 9:20. Yeah, let's stop gushing about Street Fighter 6. It's not enough gushing about Street Fighter 6. All right. I don't know, man. Yeah, we talked about character creation. The fact that you can like really express yourself as a character, right? Like the fact that I made a monstrosity and everybody saw me as that, I thought was hilarious. And the fact that something that really made me come to that realization was when I met Jabali in the game. And he was laughing about how my character's arms clip through his legs. And that was why I made it, because it was funny. I found specifically that funny. So the fact that he found that funny as well, it was great. I was supposed to do a block grab with all of the with everybody else's abominations, but maybe we can save that for next week, just so we can have an excuse to talk about Street Fighter 6, right? Yeah, because I have a bunch. Olsen was able to help me gather a bunch of the wacky stuff. I'm still pissed that Event Hubs put ours in first for their article about people making like scary or cursed avatars. but they said it was an homage to Hakan, and I'm like, man, what?